Good Shabbos, everyone. Welcome to another video of Dvar Torah. I want to take us to a moment in this week's Parsha. Yaakov, in the middle of the night, is alone, wrestling with an angel. Maybe it's the angel of Esav, maybe it's a strange man, but just think about the last time that you woke up in the middle of the night. Maybe it was a night that you were worried about something. You were a little bit panicked. And there's almost nothing like that feeling of loneliness in the middle of the night. There's no one awake to call. There's no one awake to converse with. You're there sort of ruminating with your own thoughts. And Yaakov's wrestling match happens until the first lights of morning, ad alot hashachar, and he comes out with an injury. And the injury is to the sciatic nerve. And this strangely produces a law of kashrut, that we're not allowed to eat the hindquarter of an animal or certain parts of the hindquarter connected to the sciatic nerve. So I'd like to unpack that just a little bit. And I think that this is emblematic of the life of Yaakov. Yaakov's life is a life that goes from the centers of Israel to the power center in the east, let's say Iraq, and also he will travel to Egypt. He is going to mingle, if you will, with other nations. He's going to interact with the rest of the world, if you will, with the Esavs, the foreign powers, and he's going to wrestle with them. And his name, Yisrael, is Hisarita im anashim ve'elokim v'tuchal, that you've wrestled with man and God and you've prevailed. I think it's the story of the Jewish people struggling to maintain identity while also living amongst the nations of the world. And we win, but we also, we're injured a little bit in that process. And what's interesting about the sciatic nerve is responsible for our ability to walk, to climb, to lift things, to raise things up, to be able to stand up straight. It is the central nervous position of stature. And I think it's interesting that it translates into kashrut. It translates into a law that is about food. And when we put it all together, if you think about it, we are engaged in a monumental struggle. We feel it here in Vancouver more than anywhere else, that we want to preserve the identity, the values, the commitment to Judaism and to Torah, but there is a sea, an ocean of competition. It is a competition that exists online. It exists from television. It exists in social spheres. It exists with all sorts of activities, associations, work, life, sport, recreation, Canucks to field hockey. All of that, in a way, pulls us away from the center of our community. And this is not a struggle that we ever get to give up. There's never a point in your life where you're old enough, where you can say you've done enough. This is ad olot hashachar. It is a struggle until the very last moments of the morning. And at my experience here, now almost 20 years in Vancouver, I realized that this is something that you have to do day in and day out, that you have to reinforce that connection. You have to know that you are struggling to maintain it, to keep your values, that there is no way to totally vanquish in that struggle. You will be, if you will, injured in it. There are always compromises that we are making. But what's the secret? Secret might be food. The meals that we share together, the moments that we come together and we build community, we build identity around food. From matzahs to cholent, it all contributes. And it contributes in a variety of ways, whether it's how we share our values around the table, how we create Shabbat around the table, or like we've been doing for the past 2 years, by making sure that we care for our community by sending Shabbat in a box, by making sure we give to Jewish Food Bank, and we ensure that others in our community are eating. That the law of kashrut, the law of how we eat, how we bring our community together around the table, is the secret to that struggle against the monumental forces of culture that distract us. Don't think that kashrut is just silly old laws from the rabbis. It really is the glue that is going to hold us together. And also remember that we need to never think of ourselves as retirees in this struggle. We are always always going to need to engage, to reinforce, to redouble, to invigorate our sense of identity, our sense of community. And there's no better place to do it than around your table. B'te'avon and good Shabbos.